G'day YouTube. Warbles not a lot here. 20 past 3 in the afternoon. Wandering back to check on the hotspot. Left on the ground. After last night's fire, which scorched, blackened and almost ignited the leaves on that there tree, which, with the aid of a protractor and a plumb bob and a tape measure, I determined to be 13 metres vertically up off the ground, and the slant range from the base of the fire to the top of the tree where the leaves are cooked according to my trigonometry is 21.6 metres. So that gives us the height of the flame. When it would have been going vertically straight up if there had not have been, I think my son said it was going to be 12 kilometres an hour of wind from the east. And yeah, I can still feel the warmth of it from here. And if we call that, notional straight line, 1, 2, 3 metres. And if we call that a notional straight line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 metres. Okay. So we've got 15 square metres of fire base. And it's still red hot out there. Doing the ha-ha, I'm a cold grey ash looking lump of lava sort of a situation. So yeah, there's half a metre of hardwood coals still glowing. So yeah, 21.6 metres vertically over the top of 15 square metres. From memory, the flame seemed to be about half a metre wider at the base than the pile was at the level that the fire was coming out of the fuel. So you might have got closer to 20 square metres at the base of the flame. Makes the maths easier, so let's pretend that it was 20 square metres across the base. 20 square metres, and in the video, yeah, it was pretty much a parallel tongue of fire going up there for 20 minutes, third of an hour. Took 15 minutes or so to get up to that fever pitch of excitement, but yeah, for a third of an hour, there was 21 metres of flame, more or less straight-sided and wobbling around up at the top and displaced sideways by the wind and all the rest of it, but that was what was going on. So as near as damn it is to swearing, there was 400 cubic metres of flame coming off this, and we started out with at least 3 tonnes of firewood. 25 trailer loads, and I'm going to say there was at least 250 pounds in each trailer load, and it took up so much space because windfall and sticks don't pack neatly. I was trying to figure out what the heat output in British thermal units of last night's fire was, and I had a figure surface several times in my memory which may or may not be correct, but I seem to recall hearing it on a fairly reputable and authoritative radio show where they reckoned that a square metre of burning material on the forest floor, if it's got a flame height of 10 feet or 3 metres, that's basically 1,000 horsepower worth of thermal energy coming out of that bit of the forest floor. So here we had 20 square metres and 400 cubic metres, but it was going up 21.6 metres in the sky, maybe 430 cubic metres all up. So 3 metres goes into 21 metres 7 times, unless I'm wrong. So that column of fire gives us 7 lots of 20,000 horsepower. And that makes last night's burning down the pile appear to have been releasing energy for a third of an hour at a rate of 140,000 horsepower per hour. It wasn't pumping out heat at that rate for the first 15 or 20 minutes, and it wasn't pumping out heat at that rate for the third 20-minute period, and by the end of an hour it was down to being waist high or so, and eventually I finished up sitting in this close from midnight to 3 o'clock in the morning when it finally started to rain, and we had about 0.5 millimetre, and I decided it was time to crawl off and go to bed. Not entirely sure whether this is going to show out being backlit, but that top crown in the centre of the frame there, that's brown, and it comes down to being, or light brown, comes down to being light brown, and just about there the leaves are actually black. So there was enough heat that far up in the sky that it blackened the gum leaves on the top of the tree. And the tree's 13 metres tall. I'm going to say 140,000 horsepower per hour for 20 minutes is about 50,000 horsepower during that 20 minutes. And the time before and the time after that, during the first hour, might have added up to another 50,000 horsepower between it in the build-up over the 40 minutes in which the really high performance peak came on. So yeah, if we ignore the slow release of heat after that first hour, then we've got a 100,000 horsepower fire. If you take the rest of the heat into consideration, it's still pumping out, I don't know, a couple of 100 horsepower. Like, you can't get near it. It's knee high and it's red hot. And I suppose if you've got a particularly strong, vicious gust of wind, to come along here and put the centre of a willy-willy over it and pick bits of it up and drop them out in the surrounding half-dry grassland with the leaves, yeah, it could still prove to be an embarrassment. particularly now as this bracken fern that I've slashed a couple of days ago, it's now dried out in the radiant heat from the 100,000 horsepower fire, and I haven't recharged with water or repressurized the firefighter, which is probably something I should have done because I have got 50 litres there and I don't think I use much more than 50 litres. But anyway, when you sit up at night drinking beer after working your ass off for an hour playing with 100,000 horsepower worth of energy release, you're entitled to not think of absolutely everything the next day. So, that's the post-mortem. I suppose I probably should shut that off. At this point in the proceedings, I've tried doing a tap test on it and I think there's about 50 litres still in there. And even if it is down to 30 psi or something like that, 50 litres at 30 psi on the end of a 36 metre hose is still a big heap better than a 16 litre firefighting backpack. And I think I've just about almost convinced myself that I have got enough daylight if I burn petrol and I can stick that water back in there and repressurise it. So that's probably what I'm going to do, and it's one of those situations where you can do it or you can video it, but if you video it, it's going to take twice as long, and by that stage, I think I'm going to probably run out of daylight because, you know, the shadows are getting rather long. So I might do a bit rather than just thinking about it. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.